sports talk. It's Purple Daily on Score North and ScoreNorth.com.
Has reported he's going through that process right now. It's going to be a day-to-day thing where Danielle and I have had such good dialogue over these last few days and really trying to build a plan for him that allows him to feel good about coming to work as a Minnesota Viking every single day, and we'll continue to work through the contractual side. I tend to let that be dealt with Quasi and Rob and the rest of our crew that do a great job with that. But as always, and I try to keep the dialogue and the communication with all of our players open at all times, and I think Danielle feels comfortable communicating with me, and we'll work through it day by day. But he is here. It was great to see him a few minutes ago.
And we are live here on the Purple Daily YouTube channel. If you're listening on demand, Apple, Spotify, please give us a 5-star rating and a positive review so we can spread the word about this Vikings community. And Judd Zulgad, in his little collared shirt, classing it up, the sports dad is coming in hot from the training camp introduction press conferences. We had KOC, Quasi, Harrison Smith, Kirk Cousins. So I guess we can officially call these Judd's camp notes, right? I mean, these are...
You popping your collar?
Pop the collar.
Why are you popping your collar right now?
First day of school.
Mafia? What do you...
Look cool.
No,
First day of school.
I don't think.
Pop the collar.
Have
All right,
you guys
if you
ever
don't like
seen
that, I won't do
a
it.
double popped collar before? I've seen those.
The ones where it's two collars, right? Is that what
You
you're
got
talking
like
about?
two collars.
Yeah, that was big. That was big, like what, like Hollister, Abercrombie. You're probably
Von
like
Dutch kind of a
Yeah.
situation.
Excuse me, I'm not familiar with any of this.
Oh. So we'll keep that collar down here. We will dig through Judd's camp notes, recapping these press conferences. Purple Daily Vikings entertainment. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die. They're going to try again here. They've assembled for training camp. They're going to try again to win a Super Bowl for like the 60-something time. No matter what you watch, TCL has award-winning TVs for any budget, any space, all with stunning picture quality. TCL makes more than just TVs. They offer mobile products, audio devices, and home appliances. TCL brings you joy and simplicity through innovative technology. Learn more at TCL.com. And before we get to the notes, a super fun event happening. I saw a video of Justin Thomas out on the practice round today. The 3M Open has taken over the Twin Cities this week.
Yeah, JT's coming to town. Obviously, Billy Horschel will be there too. We got Gary Woodland. Tony Finau will be defending his title. You know, he was the darling of Full Swing. Kirk Cousins was the darling of the quarterback documentary. Both those series on Netflix. So we could see Tony maybe again be behind the scenes a little bit and defend his title. You can go to 3mopen.com/tickets. The golf might start on Thursday, but the whole week of festivities is going on right now. So go to 3mopen.com/tickets.
All right, Judd, let's open up the notebook here. Let's start with the headline, I think, that came out of this. And there's a lot of really good nuggets from Kirk Cousins, but Danielle Hunter, breaking news, has reported to training camp. He is not a holdout. Now, technically, he could be a hold-in, as they're kind of hinting at, that he's there, but he might not practice much. But as of right now, he is avoiding the $50,000 daily fine that like holdouts like Chris Jones, for instance, are accumulating. So what did you find out about Danielle Hunter today?
Well, I guess it's not a surprise that without his contract done, and from what Kevin O'Connell said, it sounds very much like he is going to be a hold-in, because O'Connell basically said, well, since we didn't see him during any of the offseason program, that Danielle Hunter is going to not take part in practice when we start, which means that he showed up but said, I'm not practicing. I think this is very intriguing in a few ways. First of all, the reason to hold in now is because, unlike the previous collective bargaining agreement, Danielle Hunter, if he didn't show up, that $50,000 a day, if and when a contract gets done with the Vikings or another team, the $50,000 fines cannot be forgiven now. And so a guy who is due to make $5.5 million under a contract in his last season he doesn't like is not going to want to pay $50,000 a day. He did pay the 2-day minicamp fine, but I think combined that was less than $50,000 total. This is going to present one of the first really interesting challenges, unless this contract is just about done. But at this point in time, we don't know that. This is going to present one of the first real interesting challenges to Quasi Adolfo-Mensah and Kevin O'Connell, because you're going to have a guy there who's a popular guy, who's a really good player, who's not going to be practicing, I don't expect him to create problems, but as much as teams say they don't mind distractions, every day he's there and not taking part in practice, it's a distraction. And someone's going to be asked about it, and they're going to have to answer questions. And so, yes, I do look like I work at Target. Is there something wrong with that?
Robert Hubner says Judd looks like he works at Target. Other people say you look like you shopped at Kohl's for that button-up.
I have shopped at Kohl's before. There's a Kohl's right near me. I'm going to tell you right now, the clothes are absolutely fine. Kirk Cousins.
Judd here
right.
for Kohl's.
Look, our Target, the baseball cards are right down there. If you want some mouthwash, I can tell you where everything is at the SLP Target.
I love how those are the two things.
Toothpaste,
baseball cards and mouthwash
cards,
are the two things.
CVS. I can tell you all about Target.
Honey, you got to go pick up some baseball cards and mouthwash.
Well, if you're gonna stop at Target, you might as well get a pack of baseball cards, which I often
here
do.
For Scope. Scope has 3 different flavors.
Crest toothpaste. I like the flavorful stuff, though. I hate that, just the white toothpaste that's chalky. I hate that toothpaste.
Nah, screw that stuff.
So this is going to present, just to go back to Danielle Hunter, this is going to present one of the first very interesting challenges to see how Quasi and Kevin handle this. So, Dawn is not Julie. She would prefer that I dressed better than I do. I just don't.
What would happen if you said, Don, listen, I would dress better if, like Kirk Cousins, he had a wife that would lay out his clothes every morning? Would Don be willing to take on this step in your lives?
If we're going somewhere nice, she picks the clothes.
Okay.
But, it's got to be nice. It can't be just, out to get a drink or something.
If I'm waking up early enough in the morning, I will lay out my clothes the night before because I don't want to, figure out what I'm trying to wear
I always
if
do
I have
that.
to be up early.
Only
if I have to be up early.
Oh, no.
Or golf.
Yeah, the decision fatigue is a real thing. So do you want the real Danielle Hunter scoop? Because I have a nugget for you.
Oh.
Sure.
That may or may not matter, okay?
Sure.
And credit to a couple, I saw some people on Vikings Twitter that were doing the legwork on this, so I'm just sort of piggybacking off what Vikings Twitter uncovered. I did the work of going through each of Danielle Hunter's 412 Instagram followers today. Declan, you can confirm. I was on my phone going through his Instagram account.
Next to you. Yeah.
Oh, I did see this. Okay.
I combed through 412 followers, or who he's following, right? Danielle Hunter follows 2 NFL teams on the gram, the Minnesota Vikings and the Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, I'm assuming as part of these discussions, right, we're trying to figure out, are we going to pay him? Does he want a multi-year deal? How much guaranteed? Oh, my gosh, we're at an impasse here. That they've probably also had discussions about trading him, right? And mentioned,
that's going to be, yes.
Months ago, we mentioned the Jaguars as a team. Hey, look for teams, especially AFC teams, where you could send him out of the conference, right? AFC teams that might be willing to overpay for an extra defensive piece, like a last piece to the puzzle, right? And the Jaguars kind of fit that discussion. This is just, I'm not reporting it. This is just, I am reporting that he's only following 2 NFL teams.
I'm surprised.
1 Vikings, 1 Jaguars. That is a report, okay?
I am speculating as to what. I'm surprised.
Oh, really?
I'm surprised he has not ditched the Vikings from the gram. Ordinarily, when you're not happy, you
that's
unfollow.
A final step, right? I don't think they're quite to the end game of this.
This is a situation that either, in my opinion, needs to get resolved fairly quickly, or he probably gets dealt. And you prefer not to, but you're not going to let this one go. But again, they could be, for all I know, they could be close as well. It's going to provide an interesting window into how the GM and coach, for the first time contractually, handle something like this. It won't be the last time.
Why do you think the Vikings, this is just going off of Doogie's reporting, even Shooter from the Pioneer Press, why wouldn't the Vikings at this point? They've already said they've done a great job saying goodbye to the 30-some-year-old veterans. They said goodbye to 4 different guys, right? 5 different guys. Why not look at Danielle and say, okay, let's do a 3-year deal. Let's do a 3-year deal. Let's get you $40-some million guaranteed. We'll bump up your salary this year, and we will pay you big money through the age of 30 into 31. Right? That doesn't, and we've had all these conversations. We've done all the research. Yes, you are getting close to the edge rusher, elite age cliff. But he played all 17 games last year. So I'm no longer freaking out about his lack of durability. To me, he answered that question last year. And now he's just as susceptible to injury as anyone. I don't think he's more or less injury prone than any other edge rusher at this point. So I don't understand why they can't just all agree, hey, let's do a 3-year deal. I saw one of the YouTube commenters just said the same thing. So where do you think this thing is at?
Well, I think there's a couple of things at work here. Yes, I think a 3-year agreement would be ideal. According to Doogie, and this makes sense, the problem is not so much the 2023 contract, it's the guaranteed cash in the years after that. And the one thing where I will give the Vikings, I mean, who knows here, but the Vikings have access to medical information that we don't. And Danielle Hunter missed 2020 with a disc problem in his neck. And so they're going to know their doctors are going to know way more about that. And we can't sit here in good faith, having rightfully so torched the Twins for, medically, what are you doing? If the doctors are like, that's a risk. So my guess is that that's at play too. But I think part of the problem is this. I think that the fact that Danielle is so loyal to an agent that negotiated him such a bad second contract, I feel if Danielle would get a new agent who hadn't agreed to a terrible contract, that's on the agent and Danielle. So there's a chance that they're trying to make up for lost time here, and that's really not going to fly. And then the last thing that I believe Declan and I talked about on Friday, Phil, when you were out, is this one too. Here's what we don't know. The Vikings have a lot of very important players at different contractual situations. The Jefferson deal needs to get done. Hawkinson's not going to break the bank, but he's not going to be cheap. And most importantly, there's the Kirk situation, which I asked Quasi about to try to get a feel for if they have any real plan there beyond Kirk's contract expires. But the one thing that we talked about, or that I talked about with Dex, was there's a chance that there's a very strict financial blueprint here because of all the things that we don't know, including a quarterback. Because if Kirk comes back, Phil, that's going to absolutely, positively be incredibly expensive. But if you move on from Kirk, now fitting Hunter in is pretty simple. So I think there's a lot of variables here that we don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be really nice to know. Let's just use the Jaguars because, there's got to be a reason why he's only following. He's just a huge Jaguars fan. He's only following one other team on Instagram.
Hear him. He's roaring right now. I can hear him through the walls here.
Like roaring like a jaguar?
A jaguar, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Danielle wants to be a jaguar.
But if you're the Jaguars, would you sort of desperately offer a future first round? I mean, if it's a first round pick, you probably just have to do it. But I wonder, what would the ramifications be walking into that locker room if you're Kevin O'Connell, Quasi Mensa during training camp and say, hey, we had to draw the line somewhere financially, and so we traded one of our 3 best players, right before the season starts. There's a lot of elements at play here with this. But the other thing, too, is there anyone concerned that Danielle Hunter is, on the verge of an injury or body breakdown right now? I don't know. Again, they have medical information that we don't about his neck and whatnot.
Right.
But you're almost making a decision that I don't know that he's just going to sign a 1-year contract. I think he would demand it if the Vikings are saying, "Hey, we'll bloat your salary for this year and then you can become a free agent." Wouldn't he say, "Well, trade me to somebody that'll give me an actual contract," right?
I think you're 1,000% right. And that's why, to go back to what Dukes told us last week, I don't think the problem is 23. I think the problem is beyond that.
Yeah.
And even if it is, and it probably is a 3-year contract, I think the issue is the guaranteed money in the last 2 years of that contract. And so, but I guess my question is this too, just, spitballing here. Does the fact he's now here help? Or does it not help and it becomes more contentious? There's a lot of things because he's here that we don't know. And clearly, if he's here, he wants to play. So, at some point in time, would he say, "I'll take that"? Again, the agent is the wild card to me because the guy did a terrible contract, and and Danielle is loyal to this guy beyond belief. It feels like, and so what is the point where they finally say, "You know what? That works," both from Danielle's side and the Vikings side,
right.
And I don't know that.
And I guess, here's one more thought here is that you're almost deciding between, if you think you can win big this year, where are they at in terms of what they think they can do as a franchise? Because you've got Jefferson, you've got Kirk still in his quarterback prime, you got T.J. Hawkinson, Brian Flores should help elevate this defense, right? Harrison Smith, there's a lot of win now coming off a 13-win season baked into this team's DNA. I get that Quasi is still talking about sort of a 3-year competitive rebuild arc, and we can touch on that too.
Yeah.
But if you're serious about winning this year, then you would be willing to get into maybe a questionable contract with Danielle Hunter. You would worry about, oh my God, are we like overpaying him or getting into a bad contract in 2024 or 25? Because you know that you need him to win big this year. So the fact that they might be balking at all of it is really, it's like a glimpse into where they think this team is at. If you thought that you could win a Super Bowl this year, you would just pay him. Like, you would just, all right, whatever. Like, well, who cares about 2025? Here's a 3-year contract with a bunch of guaranteed money, right?
I don't think that's how these guys are going to work, though, because they're just basically digging out of bad contracts right now. Dalvin Cook contract. The Thielen renegotiation that these guys did was absolutely awful. Like, why? And so what I don't think they're interested in doing is continuing to go down that path. Does it mean that they don't want to win? Absolutely not. It does not mean that. But does it mean that Quasi, to a large degree, probably wants to try and win far more responsible to not create problems in future years? Yes. And again, with a guy who's near 30, if they know something about his physical condition that we don't, which they clearly can't and won't come out and talk about, that could also throw a curveball here, because I agree. We're all thinking at this point, I think rightfully so, Danielle Hunter is an absolute key to what Brian Flores and this defense wants to do. If he's traded, you now have taken 20.5 sacks off this team, because Smith had 10 in half a good season, and Danielle led the team with 10.5 sacks. So yeah, it's a tough one, but I think these guys are definitely going to have a different plan on, especially Phil, aging players.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a really, man, he's as we talked about the whole offseason, he's just right on that age line. You brought up a good point about they've got some information on his neck injury and how that might play out that the public just doesn't have. So, but that's the biggest headline today, is that all of this Danielle Hunter uncertainty, he is in the building. He did officially report. Can we get to some of the Kirk Cousins stuff next year? So
sure.
He mentioned, he was asked about, hey, did you add anything to your off-season regimen? We all sort of saw the body work that you do, especially in your mid-30s. Did you add anything to your regimen? He said, yeah, actually, I added a big thing. He mentioned Tom Brady with his Alex Guerrero partnership for years and years, and he said he hired a full-time body guy named Chad Cook, who I haven't done any. I'll do a Google search.
From Atlanta.
Okay.
Yeah. Atlanta-based guy.
So he's got a guy now, and he basically said, hey, I have one shot at this in my life, and I'm getting toward the end of it. If I can extend by a year or two, I'm all in. I want to devote my life to this as long as I can, and getting a guy on board like Tom Brady did is the next step for me, which I think is a really good plan if you are an aging starting quarterback like Cousins. So what did you think of that? And then what else stood out to you from Kirk Cousins' time with the media today?
Well, first of all, my thought on that one was, and Kirk talked about it too. I think Kirk talked about the fact that when he got to see, and I'm sure he saw advanced copies of the Netflix quarterback documentary that was Mahomes, Kirk, and Marcus Mariota, Kirk saw what Mahomes does, and you could tell he's like, wow, that's a lot. In fact, I think his words were, I'm not sure that I could do that, go from the facility to like this gym where the guy works your ass off. But yet that's sort of what he's going to do exactly. Mm-hmm. I also think, and it goes without saying too, Kirk Cousins is not only acutely aware of his age, he's acutely aware of the fact he does not have a contract extension.
No.
And so it's going to behoove him to do as much as he possibly can, because I'm sure he wants, ideally for him, at the very least, a 3 to 4 year contract coming out of 2023, right? And so I think that this is, he didn't say it, but I think that this is also tied into his desire to put himself in the best position and shape possible, so that future suitors, if it's not the Vikings, will have the ability to say, hey, you know what? this guy potentially not only had a really good season or a good final 2 years, but he's also keeping himself in great shape. He is clearly serious about it. And you know what, you guys? That could be the Vikings. That could be the Vikings. He could. I am 100% not going to close the door on the fact that it's not going to be surprising now if Kirk Cousins returns here. But I mean, you know what? The Netflix thing showed this too. Aside from taking Tuesdays off, Kirk's pretty damn professional.
Oh,
like there's not a lot of screwing around there. There's not a lot of. I mean, the guy is in really good shape as far as being thin, and as we saw in the Kirk O'Chains, ripped as well. So it doesn't surprise me that he would take the next step to try and not play till he's 45, I would think, but at least play till he's 40 or 41.
Yeah. So by the way, Chad Cook is the director of performance at Players Performance Institute. He's based in the Atlanta, Georgia area. He's a biomechanics specialist and performance coach. He's been preparing to launch Players Performance Institute ever since his own potential as an athlete was cut short. So this is his business. A hockey injury, Judd, that prevented him from reaching the next level is responsible for his unrelenting mission of preventing the same fate for upcoming and current athletes. He suffered a hockey injury, and now he wants to change
for whom? Does it
the
say?
Landscape. It does not say anything.
Minor league hockey or college hockey?
He did go to University of Wisconsin Whitewater.
Okay.
So he might be a Packers fan at heart.
Yeah.
This might be a sabotage inside job by the Green Bay Packers.
The floor and the rest of them.
Yeah, Kirk, why don't you try and put your left leg behind your head
Kirk.
there and yeah, here's it's McDonald's Day, Kirk. So we're gonna eat 17 Big Macs.
What was that snap I heard? Just your ankle. Don't worry about it. Try another one.
So I don't know, if I were him, I would be recommending AG1, for instance. So about 6 years ago, I discovered AG1 products, and they added so much value to my life. In fact, I discovered AG1 through one of my favorite podcasts, the Tim Ferriss Show, and now it's kind of cool on this podcast to tell you guys about how one scoop mixed with your water in the morning covers you for the day in terms of nutrients. 75 high-quality nutrients that give you, or ingredients, I should say, that give you important daily nutrients. You can either scoop one in the morning or maybe midday if you're looking to avoid kind of the middle of the day lull. Brain fog lifted for me, energy levels heightened, helps with my gut health. AG1 is a comprehensive solution for your supplement routine, and they're giving you a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. Go to drinkag1.com/Purple Daily. That's drinkag1.com/Purple Daily. Also, a shout out to our good friends at Federated Mutual Insurance Company. They are like having, I don't know, it's like having a great insurance trainer guy or something. They are looking out for the health of your business. They're looking out for risks on the horizon, and they have over 100 years of experience in working with businesses. You can go to their website, federatedinsurance.com, to find a list of industries they specialize in. See if there's a match for you, especially if you're a next-generation business owner, maybe taking over for your family, whatever it is. Federatedinsurance.com, where it's our business to protect yours. Can I say one thing about Kirk here, Judd? There are obviously some things in that Netflix documentary that validate concerns that we've had, right? The way that he, some of the uptight stuff on the sidelines and whatever. There's also a whole side to him that's, I feel like he'd be a much more fun hang now than before I watched the documentary. Even in the way that he was kind of talking about it and beaming at the podium today. He was just really willing to let cameras inside his life, and I think that's really cool. I respect that, and I will say, because I already hear from Vikings fans, if he performs the way he did last year with the 8 fourth quarter comebacks, or if as you start to see more of him and it's so interesting, you can see yourself getting a drink with Kirk Cousins. Every shred of criticism since 2018, I think, remains valid. If you criticized him for coming up short in prime time at times, that happened. If you criticize him for never leading a team beyond the second round of the playoffs, that is true. If you criticize him for, short-circuiting on 4th and 8 with the season on the line and checking down to Hockenson, that happened. That's a true thing. I think another thing that can be true is, going forward, His career is nowhere close to being over. He should be better now than he was a year ago, certainly than he was 5 years ago. And he has the ability to write more chapters. So I am super curious to see, coming off of last year, coming off the Netflix thing, adding a full-time bodywork guy, is there another chapter here? Is there another level? Is there a late career surge as a playoff quarterback, right? Like, I am willing, as a Kirk Cousins hater or whatever throughout my time, I am very curious to see what 2023 brings with open eyes and an open heart, Judd.
Well, your open heart's a great thing here, but I mean, so again, to go back to the documentary was fun, and like Kirk, and you could see it there. The documentary, when he came to the podium today, has loosened him up. I think he watched it and went, Stuart Smalley, people like me. People really, really like me. And so he's more comfortable not being as cliched, which he would tend to try to not, and he would not do it in a combative manner, but try to not give you much. And I feel like the document, how people accepted that, have helped him. But the reality is this is a marriage, not of Julian Kirk, but of Kevin and Kirk. And what we saw last year, now the 4th and 8 was a meltdown. That was a problem. And we still don't know what O'Connell really called, and certainly there's blame probably both ways there. But the reality of what the Vikings got from Kirk was exactly what we discussed when O'Connell was hired, which is you're putting him with a guy he's going to be comfortable with, that he's going to trust, who's going to do his damnedest to be the alpha that a quarterback is. Because, the one thing I keep coming back to is, can you imagine if Kevin O'Connell had a shred of talent? That guy would be a phenomenal quarterback. Like, he is wired 100% right. And so these two are tied together at the hip, in my opinion, and they are both dependent on each other for success. So this, to me, is not a new Kirk. This is just a Kirk who got the right guy because, Mike Zimmer couldn't stand the guy. That's not a secret. Mike Zimmer had no time for him. Mike Zimmer, besides Teddy, doesn't even like quarterbacks. So, the fact that Kirk is becoming more and more comfortable in the offense with people in a building in which he's now embraced does not surprise me one bit. Does that mean Kirk Cousins is a fundamentally different person? Absolutely not. But he's put in a position now to succeed. Do I think that at the end of the day, Kevin O'Connell is the alpha in the Vikings QB room? 1,000%. And it makes a difference because Kirk's not that guy, and he's never going to be. And if after 2023, Kirk goes and signs with a team that's just like it was here, right? Defensive coach or something, or a impatient coach, he's going to go back to being that Kirk. This Kirk got a fresh start because he is now basically linked with a guy who knows how to get the most out of him.
Shouldn't this be like the most confident, self-assured version of Kirk? Because I think he has struggled with that.
Yep.
I almost feel like he has lived with some imposter syndrome throughout his football career because he's never had the big time success, the team success, anyways, at any real level, right? So I think some of it came out through the Netflix documentary that he's either bracing for the bad thing that's going to happen, or he's showing some self doubt, and he's working with the mental coach on just trying not to dwell on the things that could go wrong. But now, over the last 12 months, he has a full season and now another offseason of working with this empowering, offensive-minded coach that's lifting him up, right, through everything, through play calling, through words, communication. And then, like you said, I don't think it should be overlooked with him that this Netflix thing comes out, and, you never quite know how people are going to perceive you with cameras in your home and in the facility, and largely, much like some of the PGA guys we talked about, Tony Finau and Joel Dahman, people are like, oh, this is really interesting. He's kind of like one of us. They shop at Costco and hang out at Barnes and Noble and stuff, and wear Kohl's shirts. So the confidence he's getting from the coach, the confidence he's getting from the things his teammates are saying about him, and now the public kind of coming around on him if they weren't sure. This should be the best he has felt really in his career to this point.
A lot of people are not comfortable being a geek. Guys like me are. I got no problem with it. I embrace my geekiness. I've got a red shirt on right now. People are saying I work at Target. It's fantastic. But I don't think Kirk Cousins truly has ever been as comfortable in his own skin as I feel like he is now, for sure since he got here. Like Kirk Cousins was, in my opinion, and there are reasons for this, Phil, but I mean, I really think from 2018 through 21 that this is a guy who was uncomfortable. Like, he knows who he is. He knows what he believes. So he's not full of doubt about his belief, but I think he was full of doubt about his acceptance. And, if he, just to go back, and I'm actually going to say this as a compliment, I think if you presented the whole COVID thing now, it wouldn't be nearly as big of lightning rod for him, the vaccination. Not that he would get it, but you recall how uncomfortable that got, right? And he was uncomfortable, and it wasn't really comfortable. I think we're now dealing with a guy that's far more certain of how he can approach things, which is a great thing for a quarterback.
I thought the nosy media made it uncomfortable myself.
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't remember who was asking those pointed questions, but
throwing fastballs.
I thought he looked very comfortable.
It was it got uncomfortable.
Oh, it was Judd that was right.
But his head coach was like all pissed off. That's what I'm saying. Like Kevin O'Connell. The more I watch this guy deal with people, forget the media, people, the more impressed I get.
Yeah, I agree. You do wonder, like, as things inevitably go a different direction in close games, or you don't get the Josh Allen fumble, or you're down 33-0 and you don't score. What does it look like if they get off to a weird start? You're 2-4. Is he able to coach from that side of things? Okay, Quasi spoke. What were your takeaways from Quasi?
Very little. He didn't say much. I feel like O'Connell might not give you a ton, but he gives you something. Quasi, I think, tap dances a lot. I thought it was interesting. He can, basically confirmed that there's still ongoing talks with Jefferson. I'm wondering when if that gets to be an issue at some point in time or not. Like, he's got 2 years left on the rookie contract, but everybody wants to get this contract done. I'm sure it's convoluted and complicated. He said that they're continuing to talk to Hawkinson and alluded to the fact that, the Kirk talks aren't dead. And then Kirk said that might be the case, but that's all going to go through my agent, Mike McCartney. And if Mike has something to tell me, i.e. a big offer, he'll call me. But beyond that, I thought O'Connell again carried the day as far as just being so comfortable and talking about, what's going on. He doesn't give you too much, but you feel like he definitely provides morsels, where I think Quasi, in part, probably because, to go back to that USA Today piece now a year plus ago, I think Quasi's much more guarded, don't you?
Yes, I think some of it is just like the nature of how Kevin can talk about a contract thing versus Quasi. So yes, Quasi's more guarded because of what happened last summer, but Kevin can play good cop with these players. Kevin can say, "Hey man, I love you. We're so excited, Danielle, to have you in the building. We'll do whatever you're comfortable with. If you just want to be in meetings, that's fine.
Yep.
Let's let them. It's us here, us the football guys. Yeah. We'll do what we can. Let's let them handle the contract stuff."
Yes.
And that's the line that's being drawn here. And I'm sure Kevin's not doing it to create a divide with Quasi. It's what you have to do. Your coach has to be able to.
Smart.
How awkward would it be? And it probably is for like Bill Belichick, and think about other sports where there's like Greg Popovich or whatever. Let the front office do their front office thing, which is try and, quite frankly, get you as cheap as possible, right? I will handle the football stuff. So of course, like, Kevin can be much more free in his dialogue about this, but this is a really tough spot for Quasi right now, because what do you do with Danielle while trying to figure out how much do you pay your 2-star, skill position guys in TJ Hawkinson and Justin Jefferson, and how does Kirk fit beyond? I mean, Kirk made it very clear in the documentary and today. My plan is to keep getting better into my mid to late 30s. I have hired a full-time body guy. I see what Tom Brady has done. I don't know if I can make it to 45, but I plan to keep ascending and getting better. And he has. You could argue he was a much better quarterback last year than he was when the Vikings signed him. Does he fit with the Vikings beyond 2023? If you're going to pay Danielle, and you're going to pay Jefferson, and you're going to pay Hawkinson, and Darrisaw's coming up, and you got O'Neal on the books for, whatever. This is a really interesting pivot point for Quasi, basically these next few weeks.
And the marriage of O'Connell and Kirk is so intriguing because I think it's pretty apparent to me. Kirk would be fine without O'Connell, but he's fine. Like, he's a statistical machine. But O'Connell actually has the ability, working together with Kirk, to turn him into a guy that wins games. I mean, 8 fourth quarter comebacks for a guy who 3 years ago we thought was a choke artist at times. I mean, that's an incredible pivot. I guess my question is, and this will be a question that can only be answered as things play out, because O'Connell's not going to say this, but does Kevin O'Connell think that he needs to be tied to Kirk, or will he basically say, I'd prefer to sever the rope and get my own guy and develop him? So, like, this is where we are entering what I think is an incredibly interesting time for this franchise, because O'Connell might say, you know what? I got everything I could from Kirk, but wait till I get my guy and I work with my guy. And so this might not be fair to Kirk, but I actually think Kirk Cousins is more dependent on O'Connell keeping him than O'Connell is on keeping Kirk, if O'Connell is as good as we think he is.
Yeah. Yeah, super interesting. Real quick, a shout out to our friends at EcoFun as well here. So EcoFun is all about fun toys for you and your family. Electric bikes are hot right now. And you can see on the YouTube channel here, you can see, look at these like souped up golf carts. You got
awesome.
Electric bikes. Man, you could have so much fun around your neighborhood the rest of the summer here. So all sorts of great deals on electric bikes. Check them out at ecofunmotorsports.com if you want to snoop around their selection, or just stop in off 35 north in Forest Lake or 35W south of the Twin Cities in Burnsville. And if you do go, tell them that Purple Daily sent you in to find something, an ATV, a golf cart, one of these e-bikes, and enjoy yourself. All right, let's keep digging through here, Joe. What other morsels do you have before we say goodbye?
I thought O'Connell's response to the Jordan Addison 140 mile per hour citation, interesting. He made it very clear, and, I don't blame him at one point, that he was disappointed. Now, to his credit, our friend Kevin Seifert did say, hey, but he said he was trying to get home to his sick dog. Did you buy it? And O'Connell's like, I don't really want to focus on that part. So, look, and I've seen a bunch of response to this whole thing. I think the reality is this. 140 miles an hour can get you killed or somebody else. No question about that. But I've also seen, it's time to drop this, blah, blah, blah. Okay, that's fine too. And I do think that Jordan's going to show up to training camp, or is here now, with a clean slate. But has he done some things that make you be like, I'm going to watch him? Absolutely, positively. I mean, to date, aside from probably, I think, a few speeding tickets that come nowhere close to what Jordan was doing, I mean, Justin Jefferson hasn't put himself on the map once in a bad way. Yeah. So if you've watched first round picks, is Jordan Addison going to be a guy that the team keeps an eye on? Yes, no question about it. But do I think he's going to take the field on Wednesday with a clean slate? Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So you guys probably discussed this, I'm guessing, yesterday when I was gone, right? You guys have kind of done a Jordan Addison deep dive. So
yeah, we didn't have the dog thing though until we were done recording.
We talked about it on Friday.
Okay. Yep. So just I guess a couple things on this, because I've been thinking about this, while drenching myself in Pinot Noir in the Washington wine country over the weekend. It's just the best way I would characterize it is just weird. It's just weird vibes so far with Jordan Addison.
Yes.
It doesn't. God, people have such a hard time operating in the gray area, right? You're either like you're judging a guy when he's 20, or you're not being hard enough on a guy. And I would say, just if you made a list of all the things that are just sort of weird in the last few months, there's that video clip where he just like hangs up on Vikings coaches multiple times while they're trying to like welcome him to the team. Just like, okay, weird confusion, but just weird vibes. The first thing he says, I think, to Quasi or KOC on the phone when he gets drafted is time to get paid. Just, okay, doesn't mean he's going to be a bust, but just like, that's a weird thing to say if you're like a humble team guy. Missing all of OTAs and minicamp with an injury. Guys get hurt, whatever. Like any one of these you could just chalk up to, whatever. And then driving 140 miles an hour, 85 miles an hour over the speed limit at 3 o'clock in the morning. Again, well, it was his dog, and we're all dog owners. My God, like if you told me little Miss Maya is having a crisis and you have a car that can get you there 140 miles an hour, I'd be like, all right, I guess.
No, not me. Stella on your own. I'm going, it's 3 a.m., baby. I'm going 55 miles an hour. I'll see you when I get home.
But it's
if Dawn called me, I'd be like, I ain't driving that fast.
I might go 90, maybe. We'll see.
I might go 90 for Dawn.
Just sort of weird vibes, and then for the people that continue to say, well, it's not fair to judge him. He's just a kid. Everyone does stupid things when they're a kid. Part of that can be true. Yeah, a lot of people's decision making is not as dialed in when they're 21 as it will be when you're 31 or 41. But I can still have a judgment about someone who does a bunch of things or does a thing like this. You can have a judgment that doesn't mean that you think he's going to be a bust, right? I think it's just to this point, Jordan Addison has not racked up many wins as a Viking. It would serve him well to have a really good training camp. Can we all say that?
100%. 100%. But the thing, too, and it's not fair, but when you're a first-round draft pick and you are going to make the life-changing money that guys like this are, I'm sorry, but, he's 21. That's not a good excuse. Like, if you want to be 21 and fool around and be, there's a lot of things that you can do. But if you're going to be a first-round pick and you're going to play professional football, and if you're good, you are going to make a killing. Sorry, you don't get just this pass of, just wait till he's 23. You're going to get called for screwing up by the team.
Yep. It's I think it's just fair to say a little bit of a weird start to his career to this point.
Very fair.
But he's got training camp, preseason, and the season, and now it's time. I think you said this on, was it The Scoop this morning with Doogie, that it's time to put your head down now and go grind your ass at training camp and, go catch 6 passes in week 1 or so.
It's playbook time. It's time to get your head in that playbook and study. This is nothing but football for all of us. Don't forget that.
Yes. The sports dad will be out there at training camp. Old Macadac might make his return after a 5 year.
I walk through that door. You can't see it. I walk through that door. I'm addressing the team. I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah, where can you show you're in an official Vikings conference room right now, right? There's a Vikings logo behind you.
But if I turn this, so I'll give you a tour here, okay?
Okay, careful.
So, the microphone.
Oh, God.
Watch the microphone.
Oh, I just don't break any of the equipment.
No, I won't. Yeah, I've had a rough week with equipment. So I'm going to turn this quickly. And if you can see this door, can you see?
We see a light at the top of the room there. Oh, there's a door. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Okay, it says Vikings personnel only beyond this door. So I'm figuring if I walk through this door, I could actually address the team, which might not be bad for Sports Dad in my red shirt. Hold on a second.
So who has a red cup against the door right now, listening to everything you're saying? So like Kirk and Danielle and
it's probably an
KOC
intern.
Maybe even
intern at this point. Intern.
I would bet that goes to like offices and I don't think it goes right into the locker room.
I think it's the cold tubs are on the other side of that door.
Are you gonna open the door? Why aren't you filming? You have to film this. You're not gonna not film this?
Oh, the door's open.
Hey Kirk, what's up? Oh no. See you later. Bye. Love the shirt.
Great.
Love the shirt.
All right.
Are you and Kirk? Are matching right now? Did he throw on his red Target polo too?
He saw me. He was very excited. He's like, "Dude, that's a great shirt." I said, "Dude, so let's go." I said, "Let's go get a soda at the local drive-in."
A diet soda, just to make sure.
Yeah, that's all I drink. Diet soda. Him too.
Because trainer Chad Cook would not be.
I looked it up. If it's Chad Cook from Janesville, Wisconsin, he's 51 on Hockey DB. Played 2 years, not very well, in the United States Hockey League in the early 90s, and he must have got hurt there. If it's the same guy, which I'm guessing it is.
He graduated with some of his training credentials in 1995. So it would make sense that the hockey career came to an end, and then he got into sort of the physical side of it. Okay. All right. Well, it's day 1 of Judd's camp notes.
So here's the question. Which outlet is going to be the first now to get to Chad Cook? The Athletic, the Star Tribune, the Pioneer Press?
How about Score North?
TV
Are you saying you want to write that down tomorrow on a write that down session? Who gets to it first?
I bet it's the Athletic. I bet Alec
we should
Lewis
all
gets
make
to-
predictions,
and
yeah.
does a 100-inch story on him.
Yeah. And now that Kirk kind of opened the door and he's been on Netflix, you almost have to green light the trainer doing an interview, right? You can't keep him. Him private now.
And it's just Kirk, so like it's not the team. Like I wonder how the team. They're probably pleased, but I always like the Guerrero thing got really dicey. But I think Brady wanted Guerrero in the building.
Yeah.
Cook's not going to be in this building, so I'm guessing O'Connell doesn't care.
Well, but Kirk
Plus,
did
it's a
kind of
workout
mention,
guy.
like, there might be times where I might want him in the building, but we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Oh, this could get dicey.
Oh, I like
Could get
that.
dicey. Drama.
We'll all wear red shirts. Me, Chad, Kirk, all in red.
With popped collars. All right. Hey, thanks for hanging out with us here on this live edition of Purple Daily. We appreciate you guys making this one of the most listened to football podcasts in America. And we have arrived, Vikings training camp. We're going to have Judd out there on a regular basis. I'm going to join him from time to time. And we'll keep this thing humming on a daily basis until week 1, which is now less than 2 months away. There goes Judd.
Where are you going?
I'm showing you guys. I want the people to see the signage.
There it is. There's the Twin Cities Orthopedics Performance Center sign. And Judd's red shirt from Kohl's.
Yep.
All right. We'll see you guys tomorrow.
Later.